Hello, and welcome to the first of 4 sessions here on Wednesday evening for the Gauntlet Hangouts. And we are playing Freely Publishing's Tales from the Loop, which is based on an art book, and which apparently is going to have a TV series now, I've read, that's out there, based on the original stuff. This game is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming community, which includes forums, it includes a blog, it includes multiple podcasts, it includes a monthly zine. So please go and check that out at gauntlet-rpg.com. Now we're playing Tales from the Loop, which is a role-playing game of an 80s that never was. It very much takes inspiration from old sort of teen mystery things, but more recently Stranger Things on television, though lighter than that. And we'll talk about what that implies here in just a second. In the original book, they have two different settings, one set in Sweden, which is where the game originally comes from, and then another one set in Boulder, Colorado. I was born and raised in the Midwest and grew up in the 1980s in the Midwest, so we are playing in Ohio. And my players have been given those pieces and information. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cats and what all of this means in general. The general concept of the game is that you are kids aged 10 to 14 in a Midwestern city, and there is a particle accelerator that has been built here. And has been operating for a number of years. And there's weirdness that comes here. Maybe it's from the particle accelerator. Maybe it's just happenstance. We don't know. There are other loops in the world, but this is the one that we are dealing with. The loop itself is underground, but there are ways to get down into it. A lot of people work at the loop, a lot of construction, all of that kind of thing here in this Midwestern city. The city's name is Wayward, Ohio. This is not exactly our 1980s. It's very close. And from most appearances, it will look like the 1980s of movies from that period, like Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club and all of that. But this is a world where a couple of major technological discoveries have kind of impacted things. One is the development of something called magnetrine, which means a kind of a anti-grav levitation. And so you get big transports that use magnetrine to kind of go across the sky. You get some smaller, mostly agricultural equipment and things like that use that. That's sort of in the background. We may see those vessels around and about. There are also robots, usually big. They are sort of upright, autonomous units. They've been around for a couple of decades, and they're not ubiquitous, but they are another kind of industrial machinery that's around and about quite a bit. There's also a certain degree of, I don't want to say exactly AI, but high-level computer programming intelligence that goes into those things. Now, that being said, there are no cell phones. We're still using VCRs. It's all of that. It's all all the everyday life stuff is very much of that. We've just got these sort of weird things that have changed mostly the high-level industrial livelihoods of people. But we'll decide how much we want to focus on those things and talk about that in a bit. So that's our general thing. Our kids are living their daily lives, and we flip between sort of the daily lives of the PCs and the mysteries that they investigate. They get caught up in these things, and they try and figure out what's going on in them. So our aim is to kind of explore that, to have fun, to kind of figure out why this group of kids are friends, because that's a default assumption that working from is you're all friends. You've all been together. You'll have a hideout or a clubhouse, and you may be in slightly different ages, and we'll kind of figure out how and why you are friends in this environment. The tone is generally PG, not PG-13, but PG. Things can be scary and weird, but not terrifying. Gore and those kinds of things are off the table, except sort of alluded to. Stranger Things for me is very much PG-13 because some pretty horrible things happen there. This is definitely PG. This is a step back from that. This is a network show, I would say, if you're going to consider it that way. Our subject matter is these mysteries. It's exploring the environment. It's the daily lives of these kids, and it's the home lives of these kids. All of those things are important to what we're doing and what we're exploring in the course of the game. Tales from the Loop itself has several principles that I want to go over because I think they really set the stage for how this game plays. Your home is full of strange and fantastic things. There's all kinds of weirdness out there. There's things you'll run into that is strange. However, your everyday life is kind of dull and unforgiving. You have homework that needs to be done. You have problems at home. You have issues at school. All of that kind of stuff gets mixed in with that. Your life is full of these kinds of obstacles, and adults tell you what to do. Related to that, adults are out of reach and out of touch. With these mysteries, one of the default assumptions in the game is adults aren't going to fix things. The kids have to do that. They have to figure out how to solve the problems. They can go and maybe ask and get some help, but generally adults are going to shut down the kids. They have their own lives and they're busy with that things. And then the situation is dangerous. The land of the loop is dangerous, but you're not going to die, period. Death for our PCs is off the table. That is not a thing that's going to happen. The kind of injuries and things that are on the table are more modest than that. So I just want to make clear that that's sort of one of the guidelines of the game. We play the game scene by scene. We set things up. If people want to call a particular scene they want, and we open it up for the table, then we can go to those spots, and we build things together. Now, related to all of this, because we are playing in a game that has some weird strangeness, because we are playing a game about kids and things like that, I think it's extra important for us to have clear safety tools. I, by default, use the X card. I suspect everybody here is familiar with the X card. I'm pretty sure. Puckett, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. So X card is on the table for things that you find objectionable, problematic, things that hit your phobias. I've had that at the table. For things you feel are off tone, anything you're uncomfortable with, all of those things can be X-carded either through a text mark in the chat or a visual thing. And I may ask you to get a sense exactly where we're cutting, but we'll edit past that and work through it. Another thing I want to mention is if something's happened a couple times and you were okay with it the first couple of times, but later on it bugs you, it's legit to X-card it later. So don't worry about that. But those things are all on the table. Assuming a PG of mostly more of that era than of ours necessarily. Let me ask, in terms of lines and veils, we kind of already know a little bit of the benchmark there, but is there anything anybody wants to point to that they definitely would like to make sure is off the table that might be in the course of this? John, anything you want to point to? Okay.
Yeah, nothing I can think of at the moment.
Okay. I just want to check beforehand. Peter, anything?
All good on my end.
Okay. Robert, anything?
Nope, all good.
Okay. And Puckett?
I'd like to draw a hard line around anything involving any kind of child sexual abuse or child sexual assault.
Okay. And I think that's a good one. So we'll kind of take that, any kind of hints of abuse in a home or things like that, we'll kind of push those and a hard line off on that. And I think that's a fair line to draw there.
One question I do have
Sure.
is, is everybody okay with the idea of kids drinking or smoking weed, anything like that? Or does that fall afoul of the PG guideline that you're setting?
I would suspect that that's probably more for the like a teen game. I think here, if kids drink, it's because they've gotten some beer and they make themselves sick. I think is the PG limits there. Does that seem okay with you?
That's fine by me.
Okay. Let me talk very quickly about the mechanics of the system because there isn't much to it. And then we're going to move to seeing what people want to do in terms of their archetypes. The game uses a dice pool system. Basically, each one of the 12 skills has a stat associated with it. And you'll roll dice equal to the stat plus the skill. And when you roll that pool of dice, you're looking for just 1 6. That's all you need. Just 1 success. It's going to seem easy. It is not. And these dice will betray you at every instance. Extra successes, if you get more than 1 6, will give you additional benefits on your actions. You have some ways to mitigate that. You can do what's called a push, which means you re-roll any dice that didn't come up a 6, and you mark one of your conditions like sleepless, thirsty, hungry, cold, and so on. All of those provide a minus to further actions. Once you've marked all 4 of those, then you can get broken, which kind of is the equivalent of getting taken out in the game. So that the pushing is one option. You'll also have luck points represented here by mushrooms on the sheet there, as my homage to Mario. You'll have luck points, and you can spend luck essentially to give yourself a re-roll on things. You also you'll have from your character a pride. And once per session, you can say you're kind of calling on your pride to do an action and get an automatic success. The only other thing I should mention is one of the picks you're going to make in coming up with your character is something called your anchor. Your anchor is the person you go to talk to clear your conditions. Essentially, they're the person you confide in. When you spend time with them, you feel better, all of that kind of thing. So that's who that is. So in the folder, I've got these playbooks, and the Bookworm, Computer Geek, Hick, Jock, Popular Kid, Rocker, Troublemaker, and Weirdo. So what I'd like to do is have everyone pick one of those, and then we'll work through the steps that are involved in making up the character. So Peter, since I just played with you last week, I'm going to put you in the hot seat right away. Do you have one you definitely want, or are you between a couple? What are you thinking?
I am between 2, because in my mind, there's only a slight difference between them, and it's the Bookworm and the Computer Geek.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of on the fence there. I'm leaning more towards the Bookworm, just because I noticed it seemed a bit more investigative, which, I'm going to get curious.
Okay, that seems fair. And certainly if somebody picks one of those, maybe, but we'll see here. Robert, do you have any thoughts? Something you definitely want, or something you're between?
Yeah, I think I kind of definitely want the Hick.
Okay. Is that cool with everybody? Robert has a strong sense. Is anyone else was thinking about that specifically?
I was thinking about it, but Robert can take it. I don't mind.
Okay, Robert. So we're going to have you take the Hick. Puckett?
Yes.
What are you thinking?
I'm leaning toward the Rocker, but I'm also looking at the Weirdo because when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, these are very loose archetypes. Essentially, they change a little bit of what the sort of picks are in terms of drives and things like that, but mechanically they're pretty close to one another, but they kind of set tone. So yeah, I can see either one of those working. John, with some off the table, any of the ones that are there appeal to you?
Well, computer geek was what I literally was around that time. So,
well, you could do computer geek, and Peter can do the bookworm.
I was leaning towards bookworm, so if you want computer geek, go for it.
Unless Puckett's really attached, I'd like to try the weirdo.
Go for it.
Okay. So weirdo. So Puckett, are you good with the rocker?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then I think that we have that bookworm, hick, rocker, and weirdo. So you can work through that sheet. It has what you're going to need to pick. You're going to choose your age from 10 to 15 years, and that will give you your attributes. So if you're a 10-year-old, you're going to get 10 points worth of attributes, but you're going to get 5 points worth of luck to start. And that'll refresh each session. So that's a tough choice. And then you distribute 10 points into your skills of the 12 that we have. You can have up to 3 points in whatever are the three key skills for your archetype, and everything else has a max skill of 1. And then the other things are things we're going to pick from. Now, before we get too much further, the skills in this game are a little odd in places. So let me explain what some of these things mean. Sneak, force, and move, the body skills, they're pretty self-explanatory. Force is using physical strength. Move is speed and agility and all of that stuff. The tech skills are a little bit more hanky. Tinker is the ability to build and manipulate machines or other items. That means to break or jury rig mechanical things or to create stuff. Tinker is also the skill we use for driving. If any of the kids were, even though it's against the law, to be driving, that would be the skill we would use for that. Program is, of course, the ability to create and manipulate computer programs and electronic devices. It's like Tinker, but for electronics and anything that has to be programmed. And then calculate basically is kind of figuring out mechanical devices, figuring out the purposes of things. It's the information gathering skill for dealing with weird tech and things. Contact is being able to go to adults to get things. Charm is charm. Lead is the ability to get the group to work together. It can be used to lead a group and give some extra dice, but it can also be used within the group to heal conditions. So it's the rah-rah skill. Investigate is investigate, figure things out. Comprehend is the research skill. It's the go to the library, find it on a bulletin board, all of that kind of thing. And then empathize is the figure people out skill. Any questions about those skills? Okay. Then I'm going to leave you to it to look through the playbooks and fill that in on the sheet. Grab a column. And if you have any questions, shout out to me. I'm going to sit here awkwardly.
What year does this take place?
1987.
So we're in 87. Okay.
Real quick, when it says distribute points equal to age and the 4 attributes, which are the 4 attributes?
Oh, body, tech, heart, and mind.
Oh, okay. So the 4 that are grouped right above luck.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and in the picks, you can skip over the relationships. We'll do those after introductions. And just an FYI, after session 1, when we come into session 2, I'll give everybody a chance to redistribute skill points or adjust them as they need to. So it's not necessarily a final thing.
With the image, do we paste the link into the image field or the appearance field?
I didn't set it up for the image link, and I should have. So what I would do is I just had the appearance for writing in your appearance. Let me see, what is the what's the syntax for calling the image link? Hang on a second. I'll find that and get that set up on the sheets.
Okay.
I just hit that.
Really quick for the skills, what does contact do?
Contact is the, hey, I need to go and get something from adults, or I need to find something who has something, somebody who has something, that kind of thing.
Got it. Okay.
Down at the bottom of your character sheets below image, below the other stuff, I've put a cell there that says image link. You can, if you have an image, you can drop the link in there, and it should read up now, up top in the box next to appearance. And we can make that box a little bit bigger. I'm going to drag it down a little bit, guys. There we go. Close that out. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes, and then we're going to kind of do introductions and look at relationships.
Minimum stat score is 1, correct?
Sorry, that is correct. Max is 5, minimum is 1.
Okay.
Also, if you don't have a rating and a skill, you just roll on the stat.
So what happens if if you have a skill level of 1, but your attribute is higher, are you adding those?
Yeah, you add them together.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So it is a little better than it looked.
And we paste the image link over the text that says image link, or in
Yes,
the bottom?
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll kind of work through. I'm going to work in the order across that character sheet for simplicity's sake. And that'll probably be the order I stay with today when I go around and do things. I'll switch that up next time. As I usually do each session, I mix that up. I'm going to start with you then, Peter. Peter, tell me about your bookworm.
Yeah, sure. So his name is Thomas Brock, but everybody calls him Owl. I think it's because he looks a bit like one, but he thinks it's because he's a hoot. I'm sorry?
I'm just laughing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he's 12. Birthday's in August. His drive is he wants to find answers to the big questions in life. His anchor is his dad. His problem is that weird man is following me. His pride is I'm the smartest kid in school. And his favorite song is West End Girls by Pet Shop Boys.
Awesome. What is your iconic item going to be?
Right, yeah. I decided on an encyclopedia.
Okay. Do you carry like one volume with you, or is it one of those compact encyclopedias? What do you think?
I think it's kind of both. I always have the compact one, but if duty calls, I'll try and bring out a specific volume if I think we'll need it ahead of time.
So why is your dad your anchor?
So I don't. He's always just kind of been there for me, and I think outside of my own character's head, it's because I think my dad's very similar to me.
Okay.
He kind of sees himself a bit in me and wants to just kind of make sure that I don't make the same mistakes he does as a kid, which will only lead to me making completely different other mistakes he hadn't planned for.
And what does your dad do?
Oh man!
By the way, this is the grilling I'm going to give everyone, so be prepared.
See, everyone else gets that prepared. No,
Yeah.
I think he actually works as a bookseller.
Okay.
Like, I think I actually get my love of reading from him.
Like owns a bookstore, or is he doing book distribution, or is he selling?
He owns a bookstore.
Okay. Like a new used bookstore, or like a chain? What are you imagining?
New used. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think even my own tastes in books because of that are sort of a little more out there because rather than just read all the new stuff. I've gone back and just read such an assortment of things because it's what's available.
Only child or siblings?
Only child.
Okay. And is your other parent in the picture? Out of the picture?
Oh, yeah. My mom's in the picture. It's just that I normally associate her with, like, get your homework done. And as much as I enjoy my homework, it's just a little bit harder to go, hey, I've got other things to deal with. And even though Dad's always working, it's easier to go to a bookstore and talk with him rather than, like, be at home and be like, oh, yeah, I've got things going on, Mom.
And does your mom, does she work, or does she work from home? What are you thinking there?
I think that she does work. I'm not sure exactly in what regard.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's even just part of my own character in that, like, I know what Dad does because it makes sense. I don't know what Mom does because she's explained it a few times. And I'm like, I'm 12. I have no idea what that means.
I work at this company and I do blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. My nose slowly dipping back down to read whatever book I'm reading.
And house nice? Is it not nice? Is it old neighborhood? Is it a new neighborhood?
I think it's one of the last old houses in a new neighborhood.
Okay. Like they've built up and remodeled the subdivision nearby, and you're one of the things that are left there. Okay.
Yeah. I think Dad probably put his foot down and was like, our house is perfectly functional. We don't need to change.
What is the worst thing about your house?
It's probably the basement. There's just, I've only been down there a few times, but the way that some of the boxes in there are stacked and just kind of all over the place, it feels like someone lives there, but no one really goes down there.
So this unfinished basement, all this stuff down there, you have some suspicion that maybe some of it was left for the previous owners, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems fair. I grew up with a garage like that in our house, so yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go through everybody, and then we're going to come back and establish your relationship with the other kids and figure out your relationship to an NPC. Let's come to Phineas Fig Chutney. Robert, tell me about Fig.
Yeah, so Fig, I think, is probably new to town. Doesn't quite fit in, and maybe even lives like kind of on the outskirts of town. So they, his dad probably has to drive him in, but that kind of causes some problems because his dad is sick, and Dad doesn't want to accept that he's sick. So I think some days he probably gets a ride from the local like volunteer park ranger, which is also his anchor. But his drive is that his family, and he kind of like looks at everybody like this, that everybody needs him. Everybody kind of relies on him a lot. And his favorite song right now is Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
What's your iconic item?
His iconic item, I think, is going to probably be... I was thinking like a multi-tool.
Okay.
And it's probably like an old busted multi-tool where like the scissors don't really work right, and different pieces of it are missing. But it's the one that his dad used. His dad always used, and then like handed down to him. Like, oh yeah, you can help out. Here's a tool.
So you say you're new to town, like in the last year, couple of years. What are you imagining?
I think the last couple of years, but he's still like, I think Feg is still having trouble, like, finding his group.
Okay.
So he's kind of a little bit of an outsider still, even after a couple of years.
And why did your family move here?
I think our family moved here because I think my mother passed away, and I think Dad had to find some other place to live. Maybe his factory closed down because of some loop-related stuff.
Okay.
And so he had to find a new job. And so we moved into town so he could find work.
And so what is his new job?
His new job, I think he probably works retail.
Okay.
And he hates it.
Like a big box store or a Kmart or something like that?
Yeah, I'm thinking like Kmart.
So live kind of out in a little more out. I'm going to say this in my Hoosier accent. I'm going to apologize right now. Out in the rural areas, like, do you mention it's a farmhouse or what?
Yeah, I think it's a farmhouse, and we probably have like a big satellite dish in the backyard.
Okay. But it's a farmhouse, but the land isn't yours to use as a farm, or is it there and it hasn't been used, or do you use it for some stuff?
We don't really use it as a farm at all.
Okay.
I think it probably was used as a farm before we moved in, but we just got a big barn for no real reason. We probably have a car parked in it.
Okay.
It was an old beat up like pickup truck or something.
Siblings?
Just had two younger sisters, both of them much younger, like I'd say like 7 and 6.
Oh, okay. So with that, with your dad being sick, does that mean that you're kind of having to watch out for them quite a bit? Or do you have neighbors?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Fig definitely has to watch out for the little girls.
Fig resent that?
He doesn't mind it until he has to play like, until he has to have like tea ceremonies and, play dolls with them.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. What's your in this house, this farmhouse, usually 2-story, we imagine. What's your room like? What do we notice when the camera comes in there?
I think very sparse. Like there's not much in it other than his clothes and a bed. And I think there's also like a little cot even in the corner because I think Fig's younger sister probably has to come in there and sleep like in the same room as Fig from time to time.
Okay.
She's scared and Dad's gone. But other than that, it's very sparse. There's like just the bare minimum.
Anything that's personalized, anything that we see, a poster, a book, a toy that speaks about you?
I think maybe just like some maybe some Lincoln Logs.
Okay. All right. That gives me a good picture. I'll come back to you with those relationship questions and we'll figure out all of your friends. Get that all worked out. That brings us to Renee Boyd, our weirdo. So, John, you want to tell us about Renee?
Yeah, so Renee Boyd is the quintessential artist. I've loved Warhol ever since I've been growing up. oh, let's see. So his pride is that he is an artist. He's drawn to different and strange things. His anchor is the comic shop owner, because they have at least some appreciation of art, which is very rare in this area. And his favorite song is "Land of Confusion" by Genesis. He likes all of Genesis as long as it's the Phil Collins years.
Not the Peter Gabriel, not Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
What kind of artist would say that?
A 12-year-old. All right. So tell me about your home. Tell me about your family.
Okay. So I live with both parents. My father, he works for the Loop, but in kind of a more mundane job, like janitorial services or something like that.
Okay.
My mother's a stay-at-home mom.
Siblings?
No
younger? No siblings.
No siblings. My father. My problem is that my father is angry all the time, mostly about work. He's afraid of, being replaced.
What are your? It seems to me, based on your picture and based on how you've described Renee, that he has an artistic presentation. What's your mom's perspective on that? What's your dad's perspective on that?
My mom's perspective is just kind of, it's just a phase, just let him wear whatever. And my dad's perception is that, the boy ain't right.
Okay. And what kind of art do you do? Is it painting? Is it drawing? Is it music? What are we talking?
Yeah, he's a sketchbook that he's always drawing things in.
Good? Is he good?
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay. What's your iconic item?
I was gonna go with the sketchbook.
Sketchbook? Okay. All right. And what is your house like?
It is definitely on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like still a full house. It's not, a trailer or, modular home,
Mm-hmm.
but it is in one of the older areas of town, cheaper end, single story, like 2 bedrooms plus den, and very, for the most part, very simple looking. The kitchen has a bunch of little stained glass things stuck up onto the window.
And your mom, you said she's a housewife, for want of a better term. What is her hobby or interest?
Her hobby is she is really into what was it? I don't know. Was yoga a thing in the 80s?
Not really.
It was not. I mean, it was a word that was heard.
Aerobics, jazzercise.
Yeah, jazzercise is, yeah.
Okay. Probably got some of the Jane Fonda tapes.
Yeah.
Watches those. Okay. All right. All right. That gives me a good sense of who you are. Before I forget, Phineas, I think you still have some more stat points to spend. Because I think your total there is 10, and you have because you're 13 years old, you should have 13 points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to come back to you on relationships in a little bit here, Renee. Let's hear about Sarah Razor Jones, Puckett.
Well, Sarah is kind of an amalgam of a lot of kids I knew growing up. She's basically on her own. Dad cut out when she was very young. Her mom is a waitress at a local diner and usually works second shift, basically. She's working, somewhere in the neighborhood of noon to 10 p.m., so she's never around when Sarah's out of school. And when Sarah's getting up and getting ready in the morning to go to school, her mom is still asleep. Her motivating factor is that she wants to get the hell out of this town. She wants to get it completely away. She wants to go to Chicago or Cleveland or anything that she can identify as a bigger city with people who might not look at her like she has 3 heads. So her entire driving motivation is to do whatever she can to get out as quickly as possible. She doesn't really have a lot of friends. The person that would really be closest to a friend is a record store clerk named Gina.
Well, I'm going to pause you here because one of the assumptions is that the group is your friends, though.
That's why I'm saying she doesn't really have a lot.
Okay, I just want to make sure on that. Okay, all right.
I have a sneaking suspicion that she probably feels closest to Renee because of how weird Renee is by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, she just wants to get away.
The record store, is it a chain like Sam Goody, or is it like a local indie record store?
It's a tiny little hole in the wall.
Okay.
I mean, from what you said about this town, it wouldn't really be big enough to have a chain store like Sam Goody in it.
Okay.
So, it's the kind of place where they'd have a bunch of 45s and, every once in a while, something a little bit more unusual would come in. And Gina's compared to Sarah, Gina's an adult. Gina's probably in her early 20s, probably just as messed up as Sarah. But because she's slightly older and doesn't live at home, she seems to have everything together and going for her. I mean, you know how it was when you were a kid.
And I take it no siblings?
None.
Okay. And tell me about this pride that you have.
She went to a punk show and some Nazis showed up and started, acting like Nazis did at that time. And she was one of a couple of people who basically started shoving them and literally chasing them out of the venue. And because at that time, it was still considered broadly unacceptable for, if she had been a dude, she probably would have gotten beaten on, but the Nazis kind of just backed off because she was a woman. And they left because even then, that was probably something that would have resulted in a stomping.
Do you imagine that you're in a family lives in a house, an apartment? Straight up trailer.
It's dirtier than it probably should be, but her mom doesn't have a whole lot of time or energy to clean after being on her feet all the time or all day at work. There's probably a couple more bottles of alcohol around than there should be. But Sarah tried it once or twice and really didn't like it. So while she may brag about it, it's not as though she's actually doing anything like that.
And this jacket, is it that's your iconic item? Is it just that it is having a cool leather jacket, or is there some other significance to it?
Oh, she stole it. Yeah, she found it she saw it at a secondhand store when she was up in Columbus at one point, and she managed to boost it without anybody noticing. So it's not only something that is kind of a type of body armor for her, but it also reflects her ability to adapt to situations rapidly and make decisions, even if they're bad decisions, quickly.
Tall, short, medium?
She's about 5'4", 5'5".
Okay. Awesome. All right. And you're 14, so you have 1 luck point, and that adds up on that. Okay. I'm going to come back around, and in each of your playbooks, you've got a set of things about relationships to the other kids. I want to do, when I come to you, Peter, we'll do all 3 of them. If you're like, I have a better idea for, I think, what my relationship is to one of the other kids, feel free to suggest that. So let's take a look at your playbook relationship questions for the bookworms. What do you want?
Okay. Let's just go from top to bottom. So she is my competitor. I'm trying to think about this, and I'm just like,
If you get stuck, feel free to look at some of the other playbooks that haven't been taken if you want to look for other questions that are more appealing to you, that fit better.
Okay. I'm actually going to just pull a different one and go, we're best friends. And how about with Fig?
I think Fig. Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
A little bit of an outsider and the smart kid, that works. Okay.
Yep.
What else?
How about we're siblings and friends. I'm not gonna take that quite literally, but I think maybe Razor.
Like kind of a younger brother type thing?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Does that work for you, Razor?
Well, I was looking at Razor's relationships, and I was thinking about that for she rocks. Like, she's kind of affectionate toward Owl because he's doing his own thing and doesn't really care what people think. He's smart. She can appreciate it. You know, kind of like one of those tousling the hair kind of things.
I like that.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Al?
Yeah. I'm psyched about that.
And what about Renee?
All right. So, I think that, it's gonna be I probably in my head think that Renee is just the coolest ever. And so in my mind, I will make him love me.
Okay.
Like, please, I just want to be that cool. I don't know how. I'm more focused on knowing things, but also secretly I just think, like, what is your deal? And not in like your deal's bad, but like, what is your origin story?
Renee, does that work for you? Okay. Let's come to Fig. Let's get your relationships.
Okay. I have one. He or she wouldn't survive a day in the woods. And I think for that, I kind of want to pick Renee.
It's probably fair.
Yeah. Because I think Fig, even though his family doesn't use their land for actual farming, like he still, drives ATVs around and has to go out and fix the satellite dish every now and then. So, the other one I have, how can I show her what I feel? And that's got to be Sarah. I think Fig is just like strangely drawn to Sarah. Like they're very, very, very opposite people, I think. And even just like overhearing her in class, like talking about, going to these crazy rock shows and, driving away Nazis, and like her life just sounds so interesting.
So pretty much classic kid crush kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then what about for Owl?
For Owl, I think just like straight up like a reliable friend. Like
Okay.
Owl, like for lack of a better term, took me under his wing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like when I moved into town, and so we just kind of became good friends.
Let me ask, Puckett, are you okay with the other character having a crush on your character? Is that cool?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure on that. All right. Then Renee, let's look at yours.
Okay. So I'm thinking that Fig doesn't like me, but I'll prove him wrong.
That seems to Fig, you like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Or I
think
don't
that makes sense.
True, or just my perception. Like,
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Owl is let me see. Sorry.
No.
So no, that one's for. How about for what was it, Razor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For Razor, what about she's the only one that knows what I'm going through?
That works for me.
Because, like you said, we kind of have that association.
Outsider thing.
Yeah. And then Owl. I don't know. Owl, I think, is really interesting because he knows stuff.
Okay. Excellent. Sarah, let's look at yours.
Well, we already went through the whole "I think he rocks" thing with Owl,
Mm-hmm.
and so the other two things that to fill in are: we don't like each other, but he/she is part of the band. I was gonna suggest that was Fig, but I don't know about so much about dislike as it is just not really having common ground to understand each other.
Okay. Something that you just don't click. Or
Something like that, where
okay.
it's like we don't have a common frame of reference. It's like, somebody who teaches ballet and somebody who's a football coach can at least have something to discuss. But this is sort of like being an asteroid and an ant. It's not, there's just, if she doesn't understand what he's going through, where he's from, doesn't understand anything about the land or the forests. And, although her life seems like really glamorous and exciting, it's not really something that Fig has much in common with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does that work for you, Fig?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Okay, give me a second to write that down. And then, this ought to get interesting.
Okay.
I think she has a crush on Renee.
Ooh. And what makes him crush worthy?
Look at that picture. I mean, I'm not wrong.
Fair enough.
He's an artist. he looks like he's somewhere between a refugee from a glam rock band and a drag king. And I mean, she's probably like, no, that back in the 80s, that really wouldn't have been a thought as much. But I have a sneaking suspicion that they are not really compatible.
Mm-hmm.
And that she hasn't figured that out yet. And for all I know, Renee may not have figured it out either.
I like it. I want to come back then with those in mind. I want to come back to you, Owl, and you have a set of 3 relationships to NPCs to pick from. Tell me which one of those you would like to have on the table.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be Jeffrey, the school janitor, was my friend until he disappeared. I am sure that the school librarian, Mary, knows more than she's saying. Because it gives me an excuse to go to the library.
Okay. And then let's look at Fig. Which one do you want of those? Oh, and I do have a question for you. You mentioned this park ranger.
Yeah.
Male, female, older, younger?
I think older male.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to establish that for my head. Okay. And which of those relationships with NPCs would you like to have on the table?
I've seen that stranger, the former rock singer Mikey Hay, sneaking around in the forest near the loop sites.
Yes. That makes sense. And then Renee, what about for you?
I like 2 of them. I'm gonna go with Glory, the arcade manager, told me their friend Peter, who works at the head shop, is about to do something bad.
Awesome. And then what about for Razor?
Could I pick one from a different sheet?
Yeah.
I like Jeffrey, the school janitor, was my friend until he disappeared. I'm sure that the school librarian, Mary, knows more than she's saying.
Only reason I'm going to X card that is because that one's already been picked.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay.
Okay. How about they think I met with Mikey? I meet with Mikey at his lake house because he was famous or because I'm buying drugs, but I would never do drugs and I don't care about fame. I actually like him, though he keeps talking about some conspiracy that destroyed his life.
Excellent. That makes sense, and it connects 2 of those together. So, you 4 are friends. However weird that is, you know each other, you're friends, and you do meet together and hang out from time to time. So where do you think you hang out? What is your group's clubhouse? Is anyone? This is an open question I'll put to the table. anyone have something that you're like, oh, maybe here or there, or ideas on that?
Kid in the 80s arcade is what I first jumped to, but I'm not strongly attached to it.
That and 7-Elevens.
Or said we have like a lakeside. Is there like a public park near the lake?
Sure.
Like some kind of shelter there where there's some picnic tables and stuff where kids can get away from adults and sneak cigarettes and try to act tough.
And this is your space. So how is it that this space is like yours and kind of yours alone? Is it like there's a shelter there and you guys managed to find a key to it, or what do you imagine? What do you think, Peter? I'm gonna throw the question specifically to you.
Okay, could you repeat the question?
So we've got this idea of there being, we've got these parks down by the lake. There's a space there that you guys kind of have as your own for some reason. How is it that this space is accessible to you guys particularly rather than the general public?
So I think it's probably something to do with, probably when we first found it, it wasn't hidden, but, we just kind of like have collected some kind of like cover up materials like branches or things like that to like cover it up, and then only we know where it is, and you have to like kind of move everything a certain way in order to get through, or else it just kind of causes more chaos.
So maybe a like parks building that got abandoned, they let the forest kind of grow up around it, and you've been able to find a way to get there.
Yeah, and maybe like the opening into that building is a little too small for adults.
Okay. So Fig, what have you done to make the clubhouse sort of personable, to make it decent?
I think actually the park ranger, who is my friend, kind of he's been trying to help out, and like when we're gone, he helps like secure the structure. Like he's just going around the outside and like making sure that what we're doing is going to actually last. And I think I have like one little corner inside the structure where I've just kind of built like a little, not necessarily a monument, but just like something, I don't know, like not a statue, probably like a whittling. I'm probably whittling something in the corner. So I've probably whittled some sort of like makeshift statue that I'm just constantly working on.
Do you imagine you're good at it?
No, I think Scott, the ranger, has been teaching me how to whittle, but I'm actually like very, very, very bad at it.
Okay. Renee, what have you done to bring this clubhouse up to your standards?
To bring it up to my standards, I am going to say that Renee has collected various little like ornamental shelving pieces and put them into the area. Okay. So there's a few little shelves that have like different little knickknacks and things showing.
Okay. And for you, Sarah, is the clubhouse just a lark, or is it a place you go to more regularly to get away from home, or how do you imagine Sarah sees this?
It's a place where she can go and not be alone.
Okay. And does she have anything that she's left there, like to personalize it for herself?
not so much personalize it, but she's hidden a blanket there because she sometimes sleeps there and she doesn't want anybody else to know that.
Nice, nice. And Owl, what book have you brought, or set of books have you brought and left at the clubhouse in hopes that your friends will read them?
Oh man. I'm trying to be conscientious of the year because, it obviously rules out certain books, but when did the Lord of the Rings books come out?
That'd be the 50s, 60s.
Yep, it's the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think I specifically put The Hobbit on top in the hopes that if they get started with the easier one, maybe they'll read the rest. No one's gone for it yet.
Okay. That is as awesome and classic and of the period. Let me ask you, Owl, who do you think, and this could be debatable, who do you think is the leader of your group? If there's someone who the group looks to for decisions or orders, who do you think that is?
Sometimes I think it's Fig, actually, but I also think it's Razor. But I don't know how many other people think that, just because I look up to Razor in general. I kind of play it off like, yeah, of course, I'm so smart, but I like her ideas a lot.
Fig, how long do you imagine you four have been friends? That the four of you have hung out? Is that just this year? And by the way, we're going to say this is April 87 in Ohio, so getting warm, mid Ohio.
I would say kind of as long as I've been here, which is just the last couple of years.
Okay. And who do you think, did you approach one of them, or did one of them approach you, do you think?
I think I probably sat down with Al at lunch one day, because I think he was probably, for whatever reason, sitting alone. And of course, being the outsider, I'm going to sit with the other kid who's sitting alone.
And Renee, do you think that you four in school have like another clique that are rivals, or do you think that the four of you just kind of ignored?
I would say, I don't know, I'm open to suggestions for otherwise, but I would think probably ignored.
Okay. That seems fair.
I'd go one step farther and say, honestly, who'd want to be rivals with us? and I'm not necessarily, that can be taken as a good way or a bad way, and I'm not necessarily saying it in a good way. I mean, we're all kind of on the fringe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Who would want to be like us? Who would choose this?
Sarah, who do you think among the group is most like bullied at school, gets the most shit at school? Renee. Okay. And if that were to happen, would you intervene? If you were to see that, or would you kind of stay
There's
back?
a reason my body stat is at 5.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, she chased some Nazis out of a punk show. Do you think she's going to step back from a couple of jocks who are trying to push her friend around?
Excellent. So she's pretty serious about that. All right. We're going to take about a 10-minute break here, since we're at about 9:20. And when we come back, I'm going to throw you into the mix, and we'll start with an everyday scene. I'll have each of you tell me. We'll do a home scene for each of you, and then we'll kind of roll into things. So that's what we're going to do. So take about 10.
All right.
All right. So, getting a little bit of echo there. It is mid-April, 1987 here in Ohio in Wayward. It's warm, probably even a little bit humid because we're by the lake. We got a little bit of wetlands. That water table's up high. It's a Thursday. It's a school day. There was a spring break a while back, but now we're in that no man's land between that and the start of summer vacation. That feeling that it is just going to go on forever. That kids get at that point. And so, Owl, give me a home scene. What do we see when you get up? What is that like?
So I think that first things first, when I wake up, my face is half covered by a book I fell asleep reading the night before.
Okay.
So it's kind of like this half-hearted, and then realizing that I'm getting a little bit of drool on my book, and I'm like, ah! So I try and close it real quick. And I think that, I think I've got a pretty decent routine down, just kind of get up. I think with the way that school goes for me, my dad gets up first, and then I do, and then my mom gets to sleep in a little bit. So when I come downstairs, I'm really having to creep down the stairs because I don't want to wake her up.
Does your dad fix your breakfast? Do you fix your breakfast?
I go ahead and fix my breakfast. I think Dad thinks he can. It doesn't always turn out well.
And what is that? Is that just cereal and milk, or is it something more substantial?
So it's kind of sort of the whatever the weedy cereal of the day is with milk, and I think I always sneak on a little bit of sugar, so that it's a little bit sweeter, and because I'm 12.
And you probably leave the house before your parents do. If your dad probably opens the store 10 o'clock, so he doesn't need to get moving.
Yeah,
for a while.
Yeah. He's usually just up reading the paper.
Yeah. So when you head to school, why don't you tell me about that weird man? Who is this weird man? What do you see? If on your way to school you see him, what do you see?
So just because with the way that my neighborhood is and how a lot of it has been newly developed or whatever, my route I used to take was a bit more of a straight line, and now I'm just kind of having to sort of weave sometimes between the houses where I know things aren't quite finished just to get to school on time. And usually there's always one corner where whenever I round it, it's this weird man. And at first he's walking the complete opposite direction from me. So the first couple of times I didn't think anything of it. But usually it's what happens if I look back, and frequently he's right there. Not super close, but a distance away, and clearly not heading in the direction he was originally. And I think the thing that kind of stands out is that he has sort of a trench coat type thing. It's kind of it's a cross between a jacket and a trench coat, and he's got kind of a enough of a hood over his head to where the only part I can see is really his nose down and his mouth, and his nose is very prominent, and his mouth is almost never actually doing anything. It's more like a dead expression, and I feel like if I had some visual on his eyes, I'd be able to kind of get whatever he's trying to do. But yeah, so it's hard for me to like make out like specific facial features, but like I know his nose is prominent and almost like hooked in a way, and he's at least like 1.5 times my height. Like I'm it's
Right.
not saying a lot because I think I'm pretty short for 12 even. Like I have not hit puberty yet, and so just the fact that he's that much taller than me, like.
And what's your reaction when you see him? Do you feel like you're in a Stephen King novel? Is it just uncanny? What's the sensation you get?
I think it's like a Stephen King novel. But I think I don't regularly read like horror stuff. I think that's something I usually stay away from. I have read it.
Okay.
And this kind of gives me the sense of like some of the beginning parts of it where it's like if I get close, I may not like what I see. So I'm just gonna like stranger danger, stay away.
Yeah, kind of pick up your pace and head on faster to school.
Yeah. I never take off running because I'm afraid that if I take off running, he'll chase after me. But I definitely pick up the pace.
Okay. Fig, your dad, we probably hear for your house, you probably hear the sound of him coughing. Maybe we get that sound of the echo, like he's in the bathroom having a coughing fit before you kind of get up. So what do we see with you? What's the routine for your life? I mean, your dad's going to drive you in, but what do we see at morning for you?
I think Fig is probably getting breakfast together for his two little sisters, because Dad is just too sick and can't really get around to it. So he's just helping out wherever he can. And it's really just him eating breakfast. Probably something really simple like Pop-Tarts.
Do you say your dad drives you in? Is there a bus for the grade school for your sisters?
Yeah, I think the elementary school probably buses kids in from where we're at.
Okay.
But to go to like a decent junior high, my dad has to drive us in or drive me in.
And so your dad comes down and he's that kind of trying to cover over the coughing fit, and he kind of moves immediately to that impatience. Hurry up, we got to get going here. Come on. And it's kind of pushing you to move.
Oh, come on, dang it, Dad. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but I gotta help Lisa and Jessica. And Jessica ain't even put on her shoes yet. Come on.
Get your sisters all set. I got to get in early today.
All right, Dad. Make sure Jessica gets her shoes on. She puts them on backwards sometimes. She don't know what she's doing half the time.
And he'll go over and help, but again, when you see him have to bend over to kind of help your sister get her shoes on, and you can see him wince as he does that.
All right, Dad, come on. Like, I ain't trying to stomp on nobody's balloons here. Like, let's just get out of here. Come on.
And he tells your sisters to make themselves ready to get the bus stop, and he takes you out to the truck, and drives you in. Do you imagine that you drive in silence? Does he turn on the radio? Is it AM? Is it FM? What do we hear here?
I think it's definitely radio. Probably AM, and it's probably one of those like church channels. And that's his idea of teaching me the good word of the Lord, is listening to AM church channels.
Yeah, probably got a local preacher who has a little congregation and a little AM station. Might even have a TV channel in the area showing reruns mostly, and then their stuff on Sunday. Had this coughing that your dad had this morning, is this usual, unusual?
I think it's usual, but it's probably getting worse. But it's kind of like, from the standpoint of like, it's getting worse progressively, and I barely notice that it's getting worse.
So it's not a thing you draw attention to. You just kind of ride in.
Yeah.
And he'll drive and he drops you off at the school. Are you embarrassed to be dropped off? Is it just usual thing? What's your reaction to that?
I think it's a usual thing, and I think some of the other kids make fun of me, but then I make fun of them back. Like, what, you need like a bus driver to come pick you up? Like, sorry that my dad's so awesome.
You'll get out and you can look back and you notice that your dad sits there for a little bit longer than he usually does, and you see him. He's got his handkerchief out of his pocket, and he spends like an extra minute coughing into that before he finally starts the truck up and pulls back out into traffic. Renee, tell me about what your morning is like.
Renee's morning is as he's getting ready for school. His mom is making breakfast, traditional toast and eggs, and his dad is getting back home from a long night of work. He's got his he has a new jacket that has like the leopard print, like Ferris Bueller, the vest he has. And so he's looking forward to starting his day, and goes down to, "Hello, Mother. How are you?"
Fine, Renee. Come and sit. And she kind of stares at you intensely, like that message that you get is be cool. And you look over and you see that your dad has his left hand is wrapped up in a bandage. Certainly wasn't wrapped like that last night when he left the house. And he looks tired and angry and on edge.
Okay. Did you have a good day of work?
Does it look like I had a good day of work? Does it look like that? Does it look like that? That new kid?
No.
Doesn't know how to run things, and he hit the steam release valve, and I got freaking third-degree burns on my hand from that little punk. And I didn't have time. I had to just go down to the Medical Lab and get all patched up, and they said don't report him because it's like somebody's kid brother who works there. And so does it look like that?
No. Sorry.
And you will notice that he's clearly had to take his wedding ring off. And you can see it clearly got superheated because he's got a burn around that on his finger there. And he picks up his stuff and he goes into the room with the TV to drink his coffee. And your mom goes, don't worry about it, Renee. Everything, just give your father some space, okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you have that art project you're doing this week?
Yes, I'm going to be working on it after school, so I might be late coming home.
All right then. Well, if you need anything, if you stay out late, of course we want you to call. But please be back, a reasonable hour.
Of course.
And do you imagine that you take the bus or do you walk to school?
I'll say walk.
Okay. And what is there anything interesting about your walking in routine? Are there people you avoid? Is there a particular route you take? Anything we should know about there?
It's a pretty long walk for him. So yeah, so one area he has the choice of like cutting through a bad like one of the trailer park areas or going the long way around. He goes the long way around.
Okay. So we see that long circuitous family circus route around that. Okay. Sarah, what is your space in this trailer look like?
It's a small room with exterior walls, so it's colder in there than it otherwise would be because there's not really, it's a corner. So basically it's getting hit by the elements on two sides. There's no insulation really there. So when she wakes up, even in early spring, it's not uncommon for there to be frost on the inside of the windows. It's not uncommon for her to see her breath when she exhales. So one of the first things that she wants to do is get up, get dressed, and get out of there and get someplace that's a little warmer.
And you get up and you get yourself and sort of unusually outside of the trailer, you hear voices, not loud, but definitely your mother and somebody else out there talking outside in a pretty early, crisp morning air.
Well, that's got to be the guy that she's been seeing. I don't know what his name is. I mean, he's only been around a couple of months. I'll be surprised if he lasts another couple.
You look outside and you see that guy. He bounces. He's pretty fit, but he looks like you and your mom are having like a more serious conversation of some kind. Would you just barge on through? Would you ignore it? Would you listen in? What do you suppose that's like?
I think I'm morbidly curious what Patricia's doing this time. But I mean, I wouldn't call it interest. I guess I'm just kind of wondering how she's trying to screw up her life today.
And you hear this guy saying, I just think maybe we could, like, I don't know, it doesn't have to be just this. It could be figuring something. And she's like, that's not this way this works. I say how this works. You don't get to say anything about it. And you can see she is doing that thing where she is clearly moving to blow up this relationship.
Well, she's not wrong to do it, but she's never wrong to do it. She's wrong to get in these relationships in the first place. He
doesn't say anything more. He just says, okay. And gets in his car, probably a Trans Am, and he will drive off. Pardon?
With the T-top.
Oh, of course. And your mom comes in and kind of looks and sees you and grunts and says, I'm going to bed.
Well, I'm going to school, so I guess I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. I got a double. And she just heads off. Is the trailer park within walking distance of the school?
For a sufficient value of walking distance, it's
Okay.
probably a little farther than kids should be walking when it's cold, but it's not so far that anybody's going to call Child Protective Services or DCFS, but they usually don't get called around here anyway.
And you'll probably see a couple other kids from the trailer park, like their parents actually bundling them into cars to drive them off to school. And, they drive past you. A couple of the kids just looking at you. You get kind of hit by the exhaust of that as you're heading in. So let's cut to later that same day, Thursday, in the afternoon, with the four of you at the clubhouse at the thing. Does that seem like a reasonable place to move to?
Sure.
Okay. Do you guys have like a radio out here, a boom box, or nothing out here? Do you just kind of sit around? What do you think? Peter, thoughts?
We might have a radio. I mean, if we have anything, I'm probably the person who's like, we shouldn't have it be too loud just because, A, we don't want anyone to find this or find us out here. And B, I'm almost always trying to read because this is, I'm not at school. I don't have to do homework. So, and the louder the radio is, the more I can't focus.
So we got a radio, one of those boxes with a handle on it that takes four D cell batteries to run onto the local WAOR radio station that does the pop hits. Phineas, how do you light this thing? Is it flashlights? Is it kerosene light? How do you light the inside of this place, or does it actually have electricity hooked up to it?
I think he's away from the keyboard.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I missed that in the chat. So Renee, how do you think? Is it candle sconces?
Yeah, I'm gonna say there's a couple little candle sconces that are situated around.
Nice or handmade? Are they like found wine bottles with candles stuck in them, or are they a little more ornate?
A little more ornate. They're like, this one might have been a former menorah that was kind of busted and reshaped a little bit, so it has like 3 candles holding up.
Okay.
And a couple of things that he's pulled out of recycling and bins and things.
And Sarah, you're a rocker, and you rock out. Do you actually play an instrument? Do you have a Walkman? Are you picking what's on the radio? What do we see of that?
Well, she doesn't have an instrument of her own, but Mikey has been trying to teach her a few chords on guitar here and there so she can put together a song or two if she wants to at some point. But in the clubhouse, I think probably what happens is that she brings in mixtapes that Gina makes and and hands it off because Gina knows this kid doesn't have a lot of money. She just appreciates it when Sarah doesn't steal things while she's on duty, because that means it doesn't come out of her paycheck. So hey, here's a tape, check this out, let me know what you think. And it's got, suicidal tendencies on it, the circle jerks, the punk stuff that Sarah likes, which is
Dead Kennedys.
probably
Yeah, okay.
yeah, exactly. But it's stuff that she likes. I'm not sure anyone else in the clubhouse likes it. And
so are you listening to that on a little Walkman or something else?
I think she's listening to it on the boombox that's in there.
Okay. So are you competing with the radio, or are you turning the radio off to go to the boombox side of things?
I think I've had enough. I think I've had a bad enough day, and the last thing I want to hear is another Lionel Richie song. So
Hello. Okay.
I'm probably trying to take over the boombox because I just want to forget. And I want to forget that I didn't have breakfast. And I want to forget that I didn't have lunch and my stomach's growling because I couldn't. There's usually this guy at the 7-Eleven who will look the other way if I grab a hot dog off of those rollers, but he wasn't working. So, it's been a day, and quite frankly, I just want to listen to Fresh Fruit for Rotting Veggies.
Okay. And when that comes on, when Renee, Thomas, and it is loud and it is discordant, and it is something completely unlike what you usually listen to. What's your take on that?
It's interesting because it's it is part of that whole punk scene. But it's like I kind of prefer the Ramones.
Owl, what do you? I mean, now it's loud, very hard to read.
I am trying desperately to just covering my ears and just I can beat this. I can beat this. Also knowing fully well I cannot beat this. This is very loud. But I'm also not going to tell Razor that. I very much am nope, this is fine. This is fine. We can coexist.
And this place is probably like poured concrete and brick, that kind of cold of that. It's April, Ohio, so it's probably been raining recently. And the three of you are in there, and you hear a thud that kind of shakes the building a little bit, and like a splash. And it definitely sounds like it's coming from above. What do you do?
The splash came from above?
Yeah, like something hit the roof. There's probably some standing water up there.
I'm gonna go outside and investigate because this is also a wonderful excuse to not deal with this incredibly loud music. Maybe it won't be so loud outside.
How hard do you think it is to get up onto the roof of this building?
I think for me, my size and everything, I don't think it's easy.
Okay.
I think I'm using this as an excuse to get away from the loud music, but I'm also while I'm trying to climb, I'm heavily rethinking is this really a good idea? And I'm well, they climbed lots of mountains in Lord of the Rings. This can't be that hard.
Razor, Renee, do you follow, or you just kind of wait to hear what Owl says?
Well, it's kind of unusual. I mean, I want to see what's going to happen, and maybe as I see Owl struggling, I try to give him a little bit of a boost up, do one of the, lace the fingers together and put your foot in and give you a lift, so that because it's he's a little bit smaller. This building's got to be 10 feet up to the roof.
Okay.
None of us are that tall.
So Owl, just because we want to engage the mechanics here, let's have you make a move roll.
Okay.
With a bonus die for Razor helping you out. So you'll roll your body, which is 2 dice. You'll roll 3 dice.
Okay, so and these are D6s?
D6s.
Okay, cool.
Are looking all you need is a single 6.
Okay. Cool. 3D6. Oh no, not any of them.
So you will go to climb up, and just as you are getting like your hand up and Razor's kind of helping you push, something brushes across your hand and you let go and you come tumbling and land hard on what brushes there and kind of knocks the wind right out of you.
Yeah, okay. Ow.
So yeah, you'll see that. You see Owl startle and falls back to the ground. Renee, Razor.
I'm surprised he didn't land on me.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut off the radio and go outside.
Okay. Yeah, you'll see Owl is getting up. Clearly took a little bit of a fall there. It is, of course, kind of muddy out, so landed, and like the back of your jeans and the back of your shirt are wet and muddy and leaf covered now, Owl.
Oh man, I have no idea how I'm going to explain this to Mom.
Are you okay?
Is anything broken?
I think just my sense of pride. But, that's been dying for a while.
What, did you see anything on the roof?
No, but I felt something on my hand, and I'm going to look down to see if whatever brushed me is still there.
No, it clearly kind of went across your hand, but it's not there anymore.
Oh.
What did it feel like? Did it feel like a branch or like an animal or?
I don't know. I just felt something, and I got jumpy, and yeah, I mean, I was already in the air, so it was hard to jump further, so I fell instead.
So you're telling us that something is on the roof, and we don't know what it is.
Well, why don't you go look?
I was trying to lift him up there.
Maybe I can lift you up there?
Are we talking about you lifting Renee or you lifting me? I mean, Renee's probably a little bit lighter.
Yeah. I guess I could look.
Yeah, I mean, it can't.
All right.
We'll
both boost Renee up. You grab one. You lace your fingers together like this, and then we'll both take a foot. He'll step into my foot first, and then he'll step up on yours, and then we'll both lift him up together.
Okay.
And just because I want to see it, why don't you make a move roll, Renee, with 2 bonus dice. You get 2 people helping you. 3 is the maximum number of helpers, I believe.
2, 3. That gives me 5 dice.
Look at that. There's almost no chance you could fail now.
Great. You jinx. 2 6s.
2 6s. So yeah, you succeed handily, and you look good doing it. I mean, why is that? I mean, do you do gymnastics or how is it that you're kind of good at this?
He looks good doing anything.
I have no idea. I think it's pretty much going to be like just Razor just boosts me up high enough that I can easily get onto the roof.
And it's that kind of black tar roof, but it's kind of old and settled. And so there's a little bit of dry space here, but there's a good deal of standing water, that kind of mucky standing water that has leaves that have fallen from the trees down into it. It hasn't been cleared at all. There's not very good drainage up here. And you see something moving in the water.
Like big in the water, or
like the size of a football.
Is there like a branch or a stick or anything around?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a stick. You could pick it up and poke it.
Yeah, try and push it out of the water.
So you will go, and we see the camera on you reaching forward with that. And the second that you poke it, this thing comes flying out of that water. And you will see this toad, like big toad, come leaping up, and you'll hear this because it's got these cicada wings on the back of it. And one of them is clearly bent, and it flies at you, and it grabs onto your arm where you're poking with the stick, and it's kind of holding on, and it's got these purple eyes on this greenish yellow toad and these weird cicada wings on the back of it. What do you do?
Ah, get it off, get it off. Yeah, flail about wildly and try and throw it off.
Okay. Are you trying to throw it in a particular direction, or just want to get it off of you?
Off of the roof, so probably back towards, because that's the closest edge.
Sure. Why don't you let's make this a move roll to get it where you want it to go.
Okay. So force. So would that be a force roll?
Yeah. Well, actually, let's do move. I'll let you do move.
Okay. Yeah. So now we'll see what I can do when I'm by myself trying to do something. I actually got a 6. Yeah. So
you fling it off the roof, and you don't fling it onto your friends. And you two will see Renee kind of step, and he flings his arm, and you will see this shape come flying off, kind of spins around. You'll hear that buzzing for a bit, and then it lands in this pile of leaves on the ground there. What do you do, Razor?
I run over to see what it was.
And you will see this stunned yellow and green toad, purple eyes like you've never seen on an animal before, and these two, say, foot-long cicada wings, wide.
One of which is bent.
Yeah, one of which is bent. Like clearly, it's and that has these nodules that kind of go into the back of this thing, and it's trying to right itself to get back up and do something. The thing that bothers you the most about it is when it opens its mouth, you can see it has teeth.
But it's cute.
Fair
I
enough.
want to help the little guy. I mean, he's adorable, and plus he's hurt.
What do you want to do?
I make soothing noises at it, like I'm talking to a newborn kitten. Like, hey there, little buddy. It's okay. It'll be all right. It's okay. It's okay.
Let's have you roll charm to calm this thing. You approach it carefully. You're trying to present a demeanor not to excite it.
Is that both heart and is that both the skill and the stat?
Absolutely. So you get 6 dice for that.
Alrighty. So I'm rolling 6d6.
So many dice. Look at that.
Double 6s.
2 successes. So at first this thing kind of pulls back because it's kind of thing, but then it kind of like it settles down. You know how frogs do when they've kind of given up on running, and it's just sitting there and it's doing you can see the movement on the side of it as it's breathing, and the wings stop doing that kind of high vibrating buzzing and kind of just fold back against the back of this thing.
Cute.
Owl, what is your take on this?
As far as I can tell, whatever that was, Renee just threw it off the roof. And as much as I love Razor, what the heck? We don't know where that came from, and it probably just hit the roof. Where did it come from? I have so many questions, and I don't want any of them answered.
Yeah, this thing, it just kind of sits there still. And it does that kind of shut down like a wounded animal does. Like when it's hurt, it just kind of settles in like if you wanted to, you could pick it up.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to like kind of sidle up right behind Razor and just kind of like peek out from around her and just kind of be like, okay, I've never seen anything like that. And I've read a lot.
But it's pretty.
Is that like the only criteria for if we should touch things? Because that kind of seems
It's a frog. It's just a big one.
Okay. I will admit that there are probably things out here that I just don't know about, but I've never seen a toad with purple eyes.
And it can fly.
It can what?
There's got to be toads that fly. I mean, like what, down in the Amazon or something like that? I bet there's frogs down there with purple eyes and wings.
We're in Ohio.
There's planes. People ship stuff everywhere. Maybe it just maybe it got stuck in a box or something like that. Maybe just wanted to... Look, I like this frog. We're naming it Frank.
Can somebody that's not Frank help me down?
Yeah. I'll like. I think I'm still. I'll just run back over to my spot and I'll like lace my fingers and then just kind of look up and go, I don't know how much this will help, but here. And I just kind of like hold up my arms like I did this before. Now I just kind of like do this, and it's probably not right, but Owl's trying.
And Renee, you rolled very well getting up there, so I think you've got some confidence and you can lower yourself down. Owl helps you a little bit, and you can get back down to the ground. Sarah, what are you doing?
I'm looking at Frank and trying to figure out what's wrong with its wing. Is this wing broken? Is it just bent? Can it heal? Is it painful? It's
bent, like it's kind of out of sorts. It doesn't look like it's broken. Like it doesn't seem so bent that it can't, get back into shape. And it may well be that with enough rest and recovery, it may be able to heal that wing. Just as a guess from a 14-year-old.
Well, I don't know any vets, and I don't have any money to take Frank to a vet. So I want to let Frank stay in the clubhouse, and we can bring Frank food while Frank recuperates and heals up, and we can, because I mean, look at the little guy. He's alone. I mean, he's like us. I mean, we kind of got to help him, right?
If he hadn't jumped out of my face, I would probably say yes.
You do bring up a good point, though. Renee, was Frank up there alone?
I didn't see any others.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't really look that closely after fighting the thing that jumped on me.
No,
It's Frank.
After Frank jumped at me.
Okay. Look, I don't know what we should do about Frank, but I mean, I should probably do some research about this because I've just never seen anything like him before. I don't even know what, like, is it a boy Frank? Is it a girl Frank?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm not checking.
Oh, no. Okay. We haven't gotten to that yet in school. Okay. I'm not.
So do we need to put it like in a bowl or a cage or what do we need?
Yeah, let me ask you this. Assuming that you want to get this to a safe place, maybe get it inside, what do you have in the clubhouse that you could do that with?
My jacket.
Okay.
And it's on me, so we don't even need to go back. We can wrap it up in my jacket and carry it in.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So do you put the jacket down and let it try and lead it onto it, or are you going to pick it up?
I think Sarah's the kind of person who's going to coo at Frank and say, so here's what's going to happen. I'm just going to lay my jacket over you, and we're going to pick you up, and we're going to carry you inside. It's okay. You don't need to be scared. You're safe here. I'll protect you.
And you can set that jacket on it, and when you go and your hands kind of move to pick it up, there is that reflexive buzzing. I don't know if you've ever had a cicada in your hands,
Yes.
or any of those, that sort of buzzing and it's not like just kind of, I mean, it's strong. And you can haul it into the clubhouse. And then where do you want to put it?
Well, I just want to let it roam around the clubhouse. I don't know that we have anything to put it in, or that we necessarily need to put it in anything.
Okay.
I mean, Frank can be a free-range frog in the clubhouse, right? Is that okay with you guys?
On one condition, and I'm just going to dive for my books because no way is Frank getting anywhere near those. Like, those are going to be worth something years from now if they're not, like, falling apart.
So you stuff your books into your backpack to keep them safe?
Yeah. And I think my backpack's already stuffed with, like, a lot of books. I was not planning to fit more in there. And so it's just kind of like,
And if you set Frank down on a chair or a bench or whatever you have in here and unwrap, it will do that thing of the kind of the exhausted animal where it just kind of sits in place, kind of doing that breathing and staying stock still, trying not to draw attention to itself.
Okay, so Al, you said you wanted to look this up, right? You wanted to, like, go to the library or something?
You know, that might be really quick. I'm going to check my encyclopedia, my compact one, to see if I've got anything. I think I'm probably just going to look into toads specifically and see if I can find anything about that.
So do we even know if this is a toad or a frog? Because does it need to be in water, or can it just be roaming around on dry land and where it doesn't need to be in water? I mean,
it was in the puddle. So
maybe it needs water to be in.
Or maybe it's completely still because it needs water, and the minute we put it in water, things go crazy.
It's going to be okay. Frank looks Very nice. And Frank's not going to jump at us anymore.
Anymore?
Well, in fairness, he only really jumped at you, Renee.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't jump at us. He jumped at you.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Frank feels very sorry about that and isn't going to do it again.
So to answer your question, Owl, I think that without a roll, I think you can definitively establish, looking through your encyclopedia, your thing, this is like nothing you've ever seen. That you don't see any mention of frogs with wings or flying. You know, there's talk about frogs that can jump far and things, but this is something completely unusual, because those wings, they don't look reptilian or amphibian, they look insect-like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna relay that to everyone and just go, okay. So the Frank, frog, toad, Frank, whatever we're calling him, most of them's amphibian, but it looks like the wings might be insect-like, which is definitely abnormal.
Does it have frog-like legs or like insect-like legs?
Frog.
Okay, so really, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer. Is there anything I can tell as to, like, are the wings natural? Like,
Let's have you make I think this is an investigate plus mind roll here.
All right, that's 8 dice.
I know. There's again, almost no chance you could fail this.
Oh, that worries me. Oh, I hate. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll do that, and then let's do that and that and. Oh, dang! That's 4 6s
and 4 2s.
That's crazy. So, Owl, what do you want to know? Let's start with your first question. What's your first question? Now, in this game, investigate like PBTA has a set of specific questions, but I think in this situation we can be a little more flexible about that. What is it you want to know?
So the thing about the wings being insect versus the rest of them being amphibian, I want to know first off, does it look like the wings were grafted on, or if it was born this way?
It does look to you like there's some evidence of grafting, but these wings are also huge. That's the other weird thing about them. But yeah, it looks like somebody has done some weird mad science on this thing.
Okay. I guess I'm curious if I can get like any sort of hint as to what, like, I think at like even just between Al and then me, the player, I've never seen something with purple eyes. So I'm wondering if that gives like any sort of hint as to if there's any possible danger from it.
The thing that strikes you is you're a little nervous about, you know, some frogs, toads, things like that have poison, and bright colors like purples and things like that usually indicate that a poison is usually a marker in amphibians for those kinds of issues. So there may be something venomous or toxic about this thing.
Okay. How much more can I ask?
I've got 2 more questions for you.
Okay. Does it any? So it looks like one of the wings is broken. Does it look like that is because of when it hit the roof, or something prior?
It definitely looks like it hit the roof and bent during that. You're thinking maybe this thing must have to fly in hops, like it couldn't do a long sustained flight with the ratio of the wings to the body of this thing. So it probably landed on a down hop and landed badly.
Okay. Okay. Which actually, okay. So if it did that, then it probably didn't just fall from the sky. So,
I'll give you the last thing I'll tell you, and I think it's a reasonable detail, just because as you're kind of looking at this thing, you will note as it's kind of shifts when you look at it, that it does look to you like there is some kind of chip on the underside of this thing.
Okay. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. So I am going to, I think as cautiously as possible, reach my hand out towards the chip, because I want to see if it's like stuck in there or if it'll peel off or something.
That's a very interesting question. Let me ask, do you say anything to Sarah or Renee at this point?
Yeah. So I think, I've been pointing out different things, like the fact that with such brightly colored eyes, it might be poisonous. That it looks like the wing broke almost certainly from the fall on the roof, but not from like a huge height, but more like it probably came on a down hop of some kind. And also the bit about the wings being grafted. But I think like my voice trails off a little bit when I see the chip, because that's something that I wasn't expecting, and I kind of want to see if I can get a closer look at it.
So I think that's going to be Tinker.
Okay. And that is okay, so that's 3 days. Actually I am just gonna pipe up a little bit and just kind of say I think there's some sort of tech thing on its underside. But yeah, I'll go ahead and roll the 3 dice.
Okay.
Gee, it's a shame Fig isn't here right now.
Fig! Okay, so I'm just gonna... I've set aside those, re-roll them, and no, I did not succeed.
Okay. So when you go to kind of reach for this thing and kind of reach for that chip, maybe to get at it, there is this moment where it's sitting very still, and then it snaps and it bites your finger and it breaks the skin.
Frank!
And it kind of burns when it does that. And then you'll hear it goes. Sarah, kind of been watching you, kind of overseeing, making sure that Owl doesn't do anything bad to Frank. You Renee, kind of watching this, and it's probably gotten dusk. It's starting to get dark out because you've been at this for a bit, and you think you hear maybe people out in the woods.
Does our clubhouse have any windows?
You tell me.
I think it probably has at least one window, but I also think that window is probably obscured by the brush that we pulled up against it to conceal it.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
See anything through it, I might be able to see something like flashlights, but I couldn't see how many flashlights there are necessarily.
All right, you will definitely, as you go and kind of look through there, we got that sort of, it's both the brush and the fact that these windows are dirty, but even through that, you can see like a passive light, like someone is moving with a flashlight. You're not sure how many someone's.
Quick, blow out the candles.
And it gets pitch black in here.
Everybody quiet.
Where's Frank?
Frank's quiet.
The only light that you have is the dim, slightly neon glow from Frank.
Well, that isn't normal.
He's
I know
glowing.
how. Shh.
It's that weird sort of phosphorescence of the yellow that's in the skin under the green that kind of, with the light out, glows like a glow stick kind of thing.
Oh God, am I gonna start glowing?
Thank you.
You do. You'll be able to read your books at dark.
And you three will hear definitively the sound of crunching and the sound of a couple of people moving outside, and you maybe hear this kind of electronic warble, like maybe like one of those the distance meters from Aliens that sort of click, of how far away something is. What do you three do?
So we can hear like the warble.
Yeah, two people
increasing in frequency or pitch or something like that as they move closer.
Two pairs of feet moving closer, and that sound, that sort of clicking warble, getting louder and certainly getting more frequent as it approaches.
Shit, I bet it has something to do with that chip.
You should
leave. Frank, I'm going to try to get that chip out of you. Don't move.
Renee, what are you doing? Are you going to stay here for this?
Yeah, for the I'm gonna try and go to the entrance and see if I can see anybody getting closer or anything.
Okay. Can you kind of move to the doorway and you're kind of putting yourself in that position? Let's have you make a sneak roll, and then I'll give you info if you succeed.
Sneak body. I get 2 6s.
2 6s. So you will go up and you will kind of peer out, and you will see these two figures. Each of them have flashlights, that kind of yellow flashlight with the plastic ones. And one of them has this device that's giving a clicker, and they're both quiet and kind of moving in parallel. The one that doesn't have the clicker box has some kind of portable cage and gloves on. And both of them are wearing overalls with that like a one piece full janitorial kind of suit, a one piece thing like that, but with no markings on it.
Okay.
And they are definitely approaching, and kind of once they get in the perimeter outside and around here, they're starting to kind of circle around the building like this may be it. And then
is it looking more as they point it towards the building, or
it doesn't seem like particularly like specific direction. Like it's just the proximity. It's not directional for them. So they're reading proximity, but they're kind of moving around to try and triangulate this.
I'm gonna go out and distract them, get rid of that chip or whatever.
Okay, I got it.
So how would you distract them, Renee?
I am going to just climb out and Man. Yeah, I'm gonna just start try and act like really indignant. It's like, can I help you? We're just trying to have. I'm just trying to be here in peace. You know, I come here to work on my art projects. I don't need people stomping around in the woods.
So you're popping out on them and trying to like get them to pay attention to you, essentially?
Yes.
Okay. Let's have you roll charm.
All right. And that's with heart.
Now, this would be one of the situations, because you have declared that you're working on the art projects, that you could say, I'm going to use my iconic item and get 2 bonus dice.
I will do that. I'm sure I have like drawings of like flowers and things in there.
Then let's have you roll. And then I'm going to come back in and check with Owl. And
glad I used the extra 2 dice. I got 1 6.
1 6. So you have their attention for the moment. Like, they clearly stop. They don't say anything, and they look at each other like they're clearly trying to figure out what the deal is here. Meanwhile, inside, Sarah and Owl, what are you doing?
Can we work together to try to get the chip out? For example, can I use my charm and heart, or is charm a mind stat or a heart stat?
Charm is heart.
All right, so can I use charm and heart to try to keep Frank calm, to give Owl another chance to remove the chip, since, let's be blunt, I have absolutely no business tinkering with anything.
Sure. I will let you support him and give him an extra die.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would make sense to me. But Owl, do you want to try again? Your finger really hurts. But there's Sarah looking expectantly.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh man, if it was just me, I'd be out of here so fast.
Big ol' eyes like, help him, Al. Please help him.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm going to. Like, I will. Like, I was like, yeah, go ahead, you grab it, and you're like, yeah, so you grab it, and I'll just keep it calm. And I'm like, oh wait, that's the plan? Okay, that's fine. My puberty voice isn't cracking.
So that'll be 4 dice.
Okay. Here we go. No, I did not succeed.
Now, you have 1 more bite at the apple.
Wait. Can I use I'm the smartest person in my class?
You want to activate your pride for that.
I do.
Okay. So let's look at pride again.
And can I activate my pride to help him out, since I could have Frank wrapped up in the leather jacket?
Well, all you need is the 1 success. So you activate that. Tell me what that looks like when you get this off of Frank.
So for me before, I wasn't really, like, I was just paying sole attention to the chip, and Frank was so still that's why, like, the sudden movement got me. I wasn't ready. And this time, like, my eyes are flitting between the chip and Frank's eyes, because I'm like, if I make any sudden movements, I want to make sure that, like, I don't scare him. And so I'm just like, it's almost slower. Like, in my mind, it's like I'm trying to be as imperceptible as possible. To Frank, I have no idea what's going on in his winged toad mind.
And you will grab and pull this thing off. It's of course absurdly large. And you've got the chip. What do you want to do with it?
I'm literally going to try to
smash it. Crunch it under your shoe.
I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be like, wait, and I'm going to take out Lord of the Rings Return of the King and just...
And I think it is no problem for you to do that and do it kind of quietly. And it helps that you've got Renee out there in full indignant voice. And they kind of like, they kind of back clearly talking, and then you'll hear a bing, and the tone on whatever sensor thing they have goes flat. And Renee, you see them look at each other. They look at you. One of them says, "Okay, pin this spot. We'll do cleanup later." And they turn and walk away. Like, clearly they're going to send people back later to try and find the body. Like, they think the toad must have died.
I accept your apology.
Yes.
And yeah, you've got they head off through the woods into the darkness. Frank the Toad is protected, and it is getting dark. And I think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. So I'm going to give you XP, experience points.
Woot.
The experience points work like this. And of course, I forgot to put any place on the sheet to do that. So you can essentially write it under stuff or under other stuff for XP. So remember that. Did you participate in the session? So yes, you get an XP for that. Have you been in trouble because of your problem or your relationships? I think we saw that from all of you. A little bit of interaction with that. So I'll give everybody an XP for that. Did anybody use or struggle with their pride? You did. So give an XP. Did anybody put themselves at risk for the other kids?
Well, I think Alistair did.
Yeah. I think all of you did in one way or another.
I did twice.
Yeah. So one point for each of you for that. And then the last question is, did you learn something new?
They're flying purple-eyed frogs.
Yes. So that's another experience point.
And I might turn bioluminescent later.
Yes. We have that on the sheet. And then to increase a skill by 1 cost 5 experience points.
All right. So did we all use our pride, or was it just Owl and Renee?
I think that the only person who actually used their pride was Owl, because use that to get that extra success.
Okay. I thought Renee invoking the sketchbook brought that up.
That's an iconic item.
Oh,
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. And this is just a chance to see what the XP questions are, so you know what to lean into for next time. So we're going to stop there. We'll start with figuring out where the toad, if it's left here, if it's taken home. We'll start with that question next time. And I'll check in with everybody about anything they want to do in terms of changing around their skills or stats. Usually with a 4-shot like this, I do stars and wishes like every other session. So we'll check in at the end of next session to see what people think, and go on from there. Anybody with any questions or anything anybody wants to mention here before we wrap? Okay, hearing none, then I will stop the broadcast, and we will plan on this for next week. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you for facilitating.